Hi everybody, on a beautiful summer day in Vancouver. So today I'm going to take you very deep into the rabbit hole. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy telling you about it. Now, it takes me about 100 kilometers of running in the forest, on the mountains, to come up with one video. That's one of the reasons it takes so long. So this time I'll have actually two videos, two parts of the same theme. This video is the first one. Will be probably around somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. And the second one should be ready in a couple of days because I'm almost finished with it. In this video, we will talk about our reality as a simulation. And the reason I use simulation is because it's the closest thing to what I think it is. It's not really a simulation per se, not like a computer simulation. But, I described it before as a dream, like we are in a dream, the dream of God. And I think the closest thing that I can use here is simulation. It also enables me to present, to show you different concepts, and it will be easier understood if we refer to that as a simulation. Okay? The most important part of this video is how to reach to the programmer, or how to effect a change from outside of the simulation. Because inside the simulation, we are very limited to what we can do in many, many ways. Okay? So, in part 2, which is the next video, I will talk about vessels, unique vessels that you can build, and you're doing it all the time, but you just don't call it that. And those vessels you will be able to present to the programmer, and the programmer will fill them with what you desire. Okay? It's just another way to call maybe manifesting. But I think that with the vessel concept, it becomes much, much, much more powerful and easier to implement. Now, if you watched, and most of you probably did, enough videos of mine, you realize that I go to many different topics, I use many different metaphors, but at the end of the day, they all connect together. It all comes to our reality, how to change it, what is our reality, and so on. And I think at the end of the day, it becomes very practical as well. So at the end of this video, the number one, first part, I will also have a challenge for you, and with a prize of $1,000 value. So stay tuned. Should be interesting. Now here is an interesting question before I start. If there were only the two of you in this reality, on this planet, and you looked at something and it was blue. To you, that object was blue. And then the other person who is with you here looked at it, and to them it was red. How would you find out what was the true color of that? Or could you? Think about it. Okay, one more thing I want to talk about, which is very important, and I will expand on it much more in future videos, is that all the information that has to do with this reality, or the secrets, call them whatever, is all on the surface. It's all in front of your eyes. You don't have to go anywhere to look for it. You just go outside at night, in the day, and look out, and every single secret that the programmer ever put in here is right there in front of your eyes. And the reason you don't see it is because your mind is programmed from birth into this simulation. And the mind cannot see something which it cannot think about. So one of the main purposes of me doing these videos is I want to actually open your mind so you can see certain things that you haven't seen before. Because I think at the end of the day, my purpose is to change the world. And I think that if enough of you will start to see things in a different way, and you will think in a different way, you will create a different reality, not only for yourself, but for the whole world. Okay. Please try to keep as open-minded as you can. Don't come with any preconceptions and common sense and scientific proofs, because that makes you blind. Just a piece of information here. I'm also doing a book from nothingness to infinity and everything in between. And so far, I think I reached chapter 2. And I actually decided to spend the next few months and write the whole thing and present the whole thing in one shot, one time. Because in this book, I'm going to, at the end of it, I'm going to introduce to you the deepest and most significant secret of the ones that are on the surface here. It's actually the most obvious one. I don't know why nobody can see it. And in my opinion, it will have a very powerful effect. It's I can only compare it to the COVID, to the coronavirus, which also started like with one person and then maybe 10 people, and eventually it reached everybody in the world. So this information I'm going to give you at the end of the book, I think will have the same effect. I mean, it will spread the same way, not the same effect. All right. I know that the programmer may decide to delete me out of his program, like he did to, I don't know how many of you heard of Michael Talbot. He wrote many books, but one of them was The Holographic Universe, and he came up with some very, very interesting and powerful concepts. And I think maybe it was ahead of the planned time or whatever, because the programmer erased him at the age of 38, deleted him. I'm using the Matrix language, where they delete a program which is actually a human being. But I'm willing to take the risk. I think it's worth it. So if I get deleted, then you will know that I was right. And if I don't get deleted, you still will know that I'm right. All right. So, you know that some 109 billion people lived and died till this day. And that's a big number. Some of them were rich, some were poor, some were hungry, some were sick, some were happy, some were sad. But the only one that made a significant difference to everybody in this reality is the one who managed to reach out of the simulation. And I'm not talking here about any religion or anything, but the one I'm talking about, it was Jesus, or Yeshua in Hebrew. And he managed to, with his words and his ability to think outside of the simulation, he managed to make a huge impact. It only shows you what happens when you actually can think and act through the programmer from outside of the simulation. Again, I don't refer to it as a religious thing or anything to do with Christianity and so on. All right. I just want to make sure that our generation, the people who are alive today, don't join this 109 billion without making a significant change here. Because this place we call our reality requires some very serious changes right now. From the global heating to global warming to the possibility of a nuclear confrontation here, which is probably, like, I'm actually surprised it didn't happen till this day, because we have some crazy people that have buttons they can push. Nobody can stop them. So we need to make that change. And hopefully together we will do it. All right, so let's start now with simulating the simulation. As I said before, if there is a simulation, there is a programmer, and we are going to find ways to reach and hack the simulation. As I said earlier, the programmer basically set all the rules and all the laws in this simulation. And science is basically part of this simulation. It can never reach out, because all it does is basically is investigating and trying to interpret the simulation, not realizing that it's a simulation. And the rules, I'll give you some examples. Gravity is one of the rules. You cannot find out where it comes from or how it works. I know that Einstein came up with some theory about distorting the space-time, but in reality, nobody really knows where is that gravity coming from, right? Because it's a rule in the simulation. It's a rule in the program. Longevity, by the way, is the same way. It doesn't matter what science or medicine or whoever is going to do, the 120 number is not going to be changed unless you do it from outside of the simulation. Okay? So this is very, very important to recognize. In the video, in one of my videos called What is Life and Death, I use the balloon metaphor as the collective consciousness, or the programmer, or God, whatever you want to call it. And that big balloon that I use there in that metaphor is out of the simulation. But then when you create new life, when I twist and I say, okay, create a new balloon, and this is actually a new life, new consciousness, those are in the simulation. They are immersed in the simulation, okay? They don't realize, though, that they are part of that big balloon. Because of the twist, there is like a veil. So if you want, you can watch that video, and it will connect nicely to what I'm talking about here. Now, as far as knowledge goes, there are two channels that you can receive knowledge. One is the normal knowledge that's in the simulation, okay? And the other one is knowledge that you receive from outside of the simulation. And many people, like Einstein, he said that all of a sudden he saw this thing, and that's how he came up with his discoveries. I know people who write music, and they say that they just sit there and write the music, and it comes to them just like a download from the internet. Those are all connections outside of the simulation. So those are the two ways you can get knowledge. And the interesting thing is that when somebody gets knowledge from outside, usually within a short time, many other people have the same knowledge, because it is brought here into this reality. And once it's brought here, everybody has access to it. You don't need to use any sixth sense or anything like that. Now, changing reality by manifesting, like reality transurfing or Neville Goddard or any of those, the secret is against the rules of the simulation. You cannot change reality in the simulation, because the simulation is more like a movie, and it's running, and the film is predetermined. So you cannot change it. The only way you can change it, you have to get out and change the film. Okay? For example, if you break the window in your bedroom on a cold winter night, right, you will change the reality, because it will be freezing and you won't be able to sleep, and the next day you won't be able to go to work, and so on and so on. So you changed reality, you manifested something, but it's a physical change. You can change anything physical in this reality, but you cannot change the reality itself. I hope I make myself clear with this. Now keep in mind that the only thing that's not simulated in here is actually consciousness. Okay? Consciousness is not simulated, but it's immersed into this simulation. Your body is a simulation. It's part of the simulation. And this is actually the reason why you can never point where you are. If I asked you, where are you? Like pinpointed, you cannot say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. This is the reason you cannot do it. Because your body is part of the simulation and your consciousness is not. So your consciousness physically cannot tell you where you are, because there is no such thing. The consciousness is in a place where there is no physical location. Okay. Another thing that's very, very interesting and very important for you to I will include a link here to a 5-minute video that explains it, but there is, in quantum physics, there is an experiment called the dual slit, the double slit experiment. And it's been done over 100 years ago, and it's still being done till this day with much more advanced equipment and tools. And nobody can actually understand or explain why they get the result they get. It has to do with a particle, a photon, or any other particle that is shot through two slits in a wall and projected on a screen. And the thing is that when nobody watches it, and watching meaning with instruments, then it comes out on the other side as a wave, and it goes through both slots or slits. But if anybody is trying to monitor and look at it, it goes through just like a physical particle through one of those slits and hits the screen in one spot. And the reason I bring it here is because it's very, very significant. What it means is that the observer, which is a consciousness, is changing the physical reality in the simulation. The reason for it is that the particles are actually the interface between the programmer and the simulation. When the programmer programs something, it executes through those particles, and this is your reality. Okay? So when you start to observe the particles, it's kind of creates a bug in the system. And that's why when you look at it with your consciousness, the particles behave in a different way. They behave as if the programmer is looking at them. Anyway, I will include the link to a 5-minute funny video about this double slit experiment. You should watch it. Now, let's go back to manifesting. So like I said before, there is 2 ways you can create the reality you desire. And referring to reality transurfing, it's called the inner intention and the outer intention, right? The inner intention, like I said before, you just change reality physically. So if you want to make $1 million, you take 5 years or 10 years, you lock yourself in a bubble, like again I described in one of the videos here, and all you focus on is this $1 million, and you will make it. If you are consistent and you invest the time and the effort, you will make it. The other way is to reach out of the simulation. That's called the outer intention, right? And manifest it. And then you will make it much faster, because reality will work with you and somehow this will happen, and this will happen, this will happen, and all of a sudden, you will have your $1 million. It may come with some other things you don't like, but you will get it. So those are the two different ways to change reality, and as it's called in reality transurfing, inner or outer intention. So how do we connect to the programmer? That's probably going to be your next question. And the thing is that in the simulation, we use our 5 senses. Everything possible in this simulation can be done with the 5 senses. Problem is that in order to reach to the programmer out of the simulation, you have to use what many people call the 6th sense. It has to do more with your emotions, your feelings, and not everybody can do it. And the problem also is that everybody does it in a unique way. There's not two people doing it the same way. It's very similar to psychics. Some take a cup of coffee and look inside and tell you your future, and others have to hold your hand, and yet others maybe doing some other physical activities, but they all connect really to the collective consciousness. It's just that every person has a different way of actually executing it. And that's why I cannot tell you how to connect to the programmer. All I can do, I can bring you to the water, but how you're going to drink it, it's going to be your unique way. Okay? I'll give you an example from my personal experience. You see, when I started to discover and think and come up with all these knowledge ideas, I was looking for a way to take it out of my mind and turn it into something more real, more like physical thing. Because if you just keep it in your mind, then maybe it's very nice to you, but you can never do anything with it, right? So I came up with this idea that's about 5 years ago, the healing olive. Why I called it the healing olive, I don't know, because it's not really has to do with healing. It has to do much more with reality shifting. And what I've done, I said to myself, if I can actually, that also has to do with the vessels I'm talking about, because I created a vessel here. And in a minute you will understand why. So I created a website. I told people, you come in here, you leave your picture, leave your address, and I will send you this little bottle of olive oil. You use it as I instruct you, and not drinking. I realize people will not drink something coming from somebody they don't know. And you will notice within weeks or maybe a couple of months, your reality will change. It will change significantly enough for you to notice, not something small. And what I actually did, I created a vessel, a physical vessel, right? And then the day I put it in the post office to be shipped, I actually sent it to the programmer because I had no control over it whatsoever. As soon as the post office picked it up and shipped it to somebody in Australia or in Tibet, I had 400 people from all over the world. It was out of my hands, but it was a vessel. And when the people received it, the programmer actually filled it up with the desires that they had. And it may sound crazy, but it worked. It worked extremely well. The feedback that I got was totally amazing what happened to people. So you see, how I did it, as far as I'm concerned, in my unique way, was that I noticed that if I look at somebody's picture and I create a certain emotion, certain feeling from that person, I connect with them, it will change their reality something happens. I cannot explain. But I somehow send something through that goes out and back into the simulation and creates a different reality. And the oil was actually the physical connection between us. Okay? So just, that may sound very complicated, but it's an example of doing something outside of the simulation, and there is actually proof that it worked, because you can go and see the feedback. I think it's on healingolive.org, the old site with the 400 people, and I asked them at the time to come 6 times back to the site every month for 6 months and leave feedback, and all the feedback is there, and it's totally amazing. So that was my way to prove to myself, or at least, to myself, to prove to myself, maybe that is not proof for you, that these things actually work. Okay? Now, if you are a pure materialist that only believes in physical, in scientific proof and so on, you won't be able to do that. You will only be able to do things physically inside the reality, which is okay too, because you will still be able to build the house, but you will have to use the old bricks. So, as reality Transurfing says, you can build a new house, but you will always use the old bricks. You cannot come up with new bricks, which is fine. You just have to work harder. Now, the healing olive, by the way, I'm still doing it now. I brought it back, and I think it's a shortcut for many people to switch their reality if they cannot reach to the programmer. I want to tell you a quick story about the power of placebo, which in my opinion is also an effect that's not part of the simulation. Some years ago, I had a partner, her name was Ruthie, and we worked out of a small office, I don't know, maybe 200-300 square foot in an old building, and on the wall by the window somewhere there was a thermostat, because the building was air conditioned, and you could adjust the temperature. And we were there for maybe 2-3 years. By that time, every morning we would argue. I was cold, she was hot, she was hot, she was cold, I was hot, and we always compromised on a certain temperature, right? After 3 years or so, I bought a whiteboard that I wanted to hang, and the only place, because it was a small place, the only place to hang was where the thermostat was. So I decided to move the thermostat a little bit further. So I took it off the wall, and guess what? It was not connected to anything. It was just there. Okay? So that's the power of placebo, because we really felt that it's getting cooler and warmer. So there you go. This is the placebo effect, whether it's with medications or anything, I think comes from outside of the simulation. It's not part of the simulation here. All right. So this is what I wanted to say today about the simulation and the programmer and the tools. And like I said, in the next video, I'll show you how to build vessels so that you can put them out there and have the programmer actually fill them with whatever you desire. So let's go to the challenge now. Let's say that you are designated as a Messiah. Okay, God came to you and said, you know what? I want you to be the Messiah. I am giving you unlimited powers. You can do anything you want. And I want you to fix this world, okay? Because it's gone wild. All right. So what would you change, or how would you reshape this world, this reality, to make it better? But think carefully, okay? Because everything is connected. So when you change one thing, many other things may change. So think before you decide what you want to change. All right, so make sure before you post it on YouTube, you make a copy, because YouTube randomly deletes comments, so you don't want to lose it. So what you do, you post your idea how you want to change the world in, say, up to 5 paragraphs on YouTube in the comments, and exactly after 1 month, 30 days, whoever gets the most likes will get from me a free healing olive with the whole package, which is 2 hours of consultation and some other things in there. And also keep in mind that you can use that healing olive to change your reality to the one you wished on YouTube. Okay. One more thing, I never mentioned it in a video, but I have a website called Talk for Life, and you can come down there, talkforlife.com. You can visit me there. There's many options. You can talk to me. You can do many other things. So come visit me on Talk for Life, and if I can help in any way, I will. So see you in the next the part 2 of this video about how to create vessels, so the programmer can fill them for you. That should be out in the next couple days, and in the meantime, all the best to you.